Welcome to the Addiction Solution Podcast. I'm Michelle Dunbar. Enjoy listening and watching as addiction experts Mark Sheeran and I cover controversial as well as helpful topics on addiction, how to move past it, and other related subjects. As two of the co-founders of the Freedom Model, Mark and I will give you a completely new perspective on the topics that matter to you. We will take to task the Recovery Society's lies and misinformation and replace them with facts, research, and the methods to move on from addiction struggles without 12-step meetings, rehabs, and the shackles of endless recovery. Let's escape the treatment and recovery trap together and learn to be free. Welcome to the truth.
Hey, everybody.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Addiction Solution. I'm Michelle Dunbar.
And I'm Mark Sheeran, and we wrote the Freedom Model with Stephen Slate, and Michelle wrote the Freedom Model for the family.
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about, we got a little housekeeping to do here in the beginning. We're doing something really special for people. A lot of you know about, and some of you may not know about, our Move Past Addiction Masterclass. And that's an hour masterclass. We give it every week. It's free. We give it on Thursday. Oh, yeah.
I figured it out.
Yeah. And then for those that are listening, you won't see this, but for those that are watching, there's a QR code right here. I'm pointing to it.
Yep.
If you're watching this on a PC, you can use your phone and hit that, and it'll take you right to the registration page for the masterclass. If you're not on a PC and you're just on your phone, go to thefreedommodel.org and a pop-up will happen, and you'll be able to register for that.
If for some reason the pop-up doesn't happen, it's the very top option on our homepage is the masterclass as well. So we make it very easy to find.
So what the masterclass does is it gives a ton of information about why the Freedom Model is more effective than other models and for getting over a substance use problem. But also we give examples of 2 lessons so you can see how the Freedom Model online program works. And we also do a little coaching in there as well. So I think it's a great synopsis of the various options we have, but you'll also be blown away by the information. We're going to go over a couple of myths and debunk them with you in that masterclass.
We also explain if you're somebody that's gone to treatment or you've been in and out of recovery and recovery meetings.
Yeah.
You know, you can feel like a real failure. You can feel like you're that constitutionally incapable person or that there's something really broken inside of you. And none of that is true. And so we go over exactly why you are still struggling and that you've just been given the wrong information. It's not your fault.
Yeah. So, and one of the benefits of going to the masterclass, and they're massive, by the way, is we're trying here at the Freedom Model to make help for an addiction, or we call it a substance use problem, affordable.
Yeah.
And so the online program that we offer, which is a massive amount of information, we're talking over 100 video tutorials. We go through this entire curriculum, 470 pages in video form.
Plus there's additional like lessons there as well. 3 additional like sections that aren't in the book.
That's right. And we also do some monthly coaching as well, which we're actually going to be doing today. Today is Wednesday.
Yes.
So you get a whole bunch of value. And if you take the masterclass, you get 50% off the online program. It goes from $450 to $225 for a complete addiction solution. And you can do it from home. You do it at your pace.
Yes, on your schedule. And that we also offer now, which is new. So if you've taken the masterclass in the past, be looking for an email today with a coupon code, which will give you 20% off the full coaching program. We decided we were going to make that offer to masterclass people that have enrolled in the masterclass. If you haven't enrolled yet, that's a great reason to enroll. The coaching program is you're working one-on-one with a Freedom Model coach. And what's really great about the coaching program is you're learning. So you get your assignments, you read some chapters, you watch some videos, because you get the online program as well with the coaching program. And then you get to apply what you're learning in real time,
Yeah.
because you're living your life. When you go to a rehab, when you go to a
Yeah.
residential program and you're away for a month, what you're doing is you're basically kicking that can down the road, because one of the reasons you probably like intoxication is because of the problems you have in your life. You're trying to escape it. So when you go away to a rehab, a lot of people will say, well, it's easy not to drink and drug when I'm in rehab, because
Right.
I'm basically on a very expensive vacation.
A very expensive bad vacation.
Like, it's not even a fun vacation.
God.
You can get better benefits from going on a actual vacation. And so what the freedom model helps you to do is you're in your life. So
Right.
you're learning how to problem solve without substances, and you're also being able to measure, am I actually getting the benefits from this heavy use that I thought I was getting? It's just tremendous to be able to learn in real time
Right.
and apply it. And it usually happens. I mean, we usually get people through the full curriculum in 4 to 6 weeks, and you can see the change as it happens. It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, it's massive. It's massive. So you're going to go through this, and again, this entire curriculum in that coaching program. So you get 20% off, which is almost $1,000 off if you go to the masterclass. So please register for the free masterclass. And yeah. So
yeah, we'd love to work with you.
So today we're going to talk about
we've had a lot of requests for this.
Yeah. Behavioral addictions. Now, we don't use the word addiction in substance use. We call it substance use instead of an addiction. Because as you all know, a compelled behavior that overtakes your free will does not in reality exist. But there's no real, we're going to use the word addiction in this one because when it comes to behavioral addictions, there's no real word for it that we've designed.
Right. Habitual behaviors.
And when we use the word habit, we will use that throughout the podcast. But when we use it up front, people tend to say we're being dismissive. So we'll start with the addiction word and we'll probably end with something else. I want to talk a little bit about being very careful about defining what we're talking about. So when we're talking about sexual addiction, we are not talking about pedophilia. The freedom model has zero opinion, ideas, except for protecting children.
Yes.
So our stance is very clear, but we leave that up to law enforcement. So if you are a pedophile and you want help with that, we're probably not the model for that, because we would be a mandatory reporter on that. That's the stance on protecting children. Having lived through it myself, that's the way I have to deal with that as a policy. But when it comes to consenting adults or pornography or things like that, we'll talk openly about that and being able to help people with that. Absolutely. Drugs are illegal, but when it comes to children, it's a different situation entirely.
Well, I think what we're talking about is the difference between victim and victimless crimes.
Yeah.
Yes. A victimless crime is getting drunk every night, right? And or getting high, or things like that. And yes, people steal to get high and things like that. Of course, we don't advocate that behavior. But when we're talking, the reason we have to qualify this is because a portion of getting over the problem actually requires you to set aside your personal judgments of the behavior and yourself. And so when we're talking about sexual addictions, sexual preferences, so to speak, like strong preference for a certain behavior. So you're doing it and you feel like it's causing problems within your life. Whether that's watching pornography or masturbation or getting prostitutes or going to strip clubs. It's important for people to understand that if they're beating themselves up about this because they feel like it's morally wrong, that could actually be blocking them from figuring out how to solve the problem.
Yeah. So there's a nuance here with morality that I wanted to talk about also as a caveat. So some of you out there belong to religions that will require you to feel guilty because they view this as a sin. I grew up Catholic, and that would be the stance that the Catholic Church would have.
Yep.
And the freedom model has no opinion on morality. And so if you have a moral code that requires you to feel guilty, then for the time that you're working with the freedom model on this problem, you'll have to take the morality issue and set it on a table along with the guilt and shame.
Yeah,
And
just set it aside.
Just set it aside. Now, that's not to say we are against morality.
Right.
We have no opinion about morality. Morality is for the priests, the pastors, and you to deal with on your own, and you're entitled to your belief system. But in order to do a proper analysis of why you enjoy or see benefit in the habit that you've developed, the preference that you've developed, you have to be able to set the guilt and the shame aside because it blocks you from being able to do analysis. So I just want to say that up front, that we're not against morality. We're not amoral. We're not an amoral model. We see morality as a belief system that is necessary for some people. I have a certain moral code, for example. I do. And so, but when we're analyzing things, it has to be a judgment-free zone, both if you're having a coach, they're going to be judgment-free, and you'll have to learn to be judgment-free of yourself for a little while. You can always pick up the guilt and shame and regret later if you decide to do that. I decided not to do that anymore and beat myself up. But some religious beliefs believe in, flogging yourself. And that's part of the process. I've let that go, that part of my religion go, but some people hang on to that. So, but for the time of the analysis, you're going to have to just set that aside so that you can look at things very clearly.
I think we can explain a little bit about why that is. One of the reasons if you go to chapter 4, and so when we're working with people with behavioral addictions, one of the places we have them go is chapter 4, right? Because the goal in chapter 4 is, let's figure out why you have this preference. And one of the reasons can be it's a taboo behavior. That can make it that much more enticing and alluring, and the whole secretive nature of it actually can add what you see as benefits to it. And so and in some cases, people see benefits to the self-flogging.
Yes. All of this tends to be a very intricate distraction from moving forward in life. We see this. If I was to put a sexual habit, or we'll call it the addiction, right? The sexual addiction or porn addiction or whatever it might be. A lot of that is centered on people who enjoy it for the pleasure.
Yeah.
And then also enjoy it as a massive distraction from the responsibilities of their life, because they're at that point unwilling to move forward and evolve as a person. But then it becomes painful, and then the word addiction gets attached to it, and it becomes something that it really is not. It becomes much more seemingly difficult to move on from. The other portion of this, which is where we can move forward in the discussion, is where it becomes, I lost my train of thought.
It becomes your identity. Okay. That we have I want to say it's chapter 8 or 9. We talk about everything changes once you see yourself as addicted. Everything about you changes. What you believe about yourself becomes your reality. And so when somebody says, I'm addicted, I'm a sex addict. I'm a sex addict. I mean, what a label to carry around with yourself, right then. And especially if you have morality attached to it.
Yeah.
I mean, it becomes, your whole world feels like it's out of your control, because everything hinges on this fact that you're this terrible person.
Right. And where I was going to go is to the pleasure angle.
Yeah.
People think that just because that I've got my thought back, just because there is a seeming inherent pleasure with orgasm, that it's a more difficult addiction to let go of than, say, a drug problem, which is they see as foreign, right? You're putting a foreign bun.
Interesting.
So you have this innate natural drive to procreate. We hear this all the time. And then I say, well, all pleasure, including orgasm, is subjective. And they say, no, everybody likes orgasm. And I say, that's simply not true. There are people who are totally asexual. There are people who are celibate until they get married, even though your hormones are at their highest levels during teen to early 20s, and they may not get married till they're 40 and they remain celibate. There are priests and pastors and other people who remain celibate for life. So the pleasure they find in being celibate is obviously more valuable to them than the pleasure they might seek in orgasm. So, or a sexual relationship of any kind. So some people it's like food addictions too. We see that in food addictions where people fast. I always use Gandhi as the example. He certainly
he saw benefits and more benefits in fasting.
Yeah. He saw the revolution of his country from French tyranny, as more important than sustaining his body. He literally starved himself for political gain. So I think that we have to look at the fact that we have ultimate control in our mind to see pleasure however we want to see it. And we definitely have the mindful ability to supersede sexual arousal and that sort of thing if we find it more important. Now, I'm not an advocate of abstaining from sex. That's not the point. I'm not a prude. But I think that the first step is letting go of guilt. The second step is realizing that you do have the innate ability to choose something else if you found it more important. So let me pull that right into a porn addiction. Let's say that you spend hours and hours watching internet porn. You may find that doing something else would be better, but you haven't given it a chance, because you believe you're addicted. Which goes to your point.
Right to that. So whenever we talk to people or we're coaching people about these kinds of addictions, and they can include also gambling and food and all kinds of addictions, what we do is we guide them through remarkably the freedom model. The vast majority of the book isn't really about substances as much as it's about the behaviors, the chosen behaviors. All behavior is voluntary. From when we eat, what we eat, when we have sex, when we look, whatever you're doing is voluntary. You can't pick up this cup of coffee without thinking about it first. Okay. So even the behaviors that seem to happen automatically because they're habit, it just means that the thought process was instantaneous. It was very quick, but you still have intention. Okay.
That's right.
So when we're working with people, what I have them focus on is first debunking the myth that they're out of control.
Yeah.
Right. Let's debunk that myth. Let's even with substances which are ingested into your body, it's been shown unequivocally that people are never out of control. So you can see that in chapters 1 and 2 and appendix A and B in our book.
That's right. Even when your brain is changed by the chemical action, people stop, and they stop in the millions every year globally, whether they're treated or not, with changed brains. So this idea that you're hacked, you're biohacked, or with sexual addiction or gambling or food, they use the same brain disease
with
idea,
the
dopamine, that you're never going to be happy without your chosen addiction. That's just nonsense. But when you start to believe this stuff, you begin to manifest it in the behavior. You start to it's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Absolutely.
You start to frame it as an addiction, as an addict, like Michelle was talking earlier. Now you're creating your own binge construct, like a drinker does or a drugger does. It's the same exact phenomenon. So we have to bring it back into the realm of chosen behaviors that we find value in, Get rid of the idea of an addict. Toss that label. My God, get rid of it. It's a made up concept that is only harmful to you moving forward. And then let go of the shame and guilt over here. Let go of the addict identity. What are you left with? What are you left with? You're left with, I make this choice for A, B, C, D, and E reasons. And are they valid? Am I getting out of those reasons what I think I'm getting? Is it effectively giving me a fantastic distraction from the suffering of life, which seems to be one of the main reasons people gamble, struggle with porn addiction and food. So these are distractions from the inherent suffering of life.
Or you can open your mind to the possibility that, you know what, this is getting kind of boring.
Yeah, and allow for that. I'll never forget Stephen when he talked about him at the end living in his car, and he goes, and
stealing baby food for for heroin.
For heroin. He goes, it really wasn't that exciting to sleep in my car,
boost baby formula,
and boosting baby formula from Walmart every day and being arrested. It wasn't that exciting. Spending all day searching for drugs, not fun. And it's kind of funny because you get into that place. I did too.
Yeah, where you feel like I hate this now and it's not that great and I'm still, but I feel like I have to do it.
Yeah.
And it sometimes all it takes is for you to like just something to click and you to think, oh, wait a minute, this isn't that great and I don't have to keep doing it, but you opening your mind to that possibility that maybe all this bullshit I learned about being an addict is just that. It's bullshit. It's not true.
Yeah.
And I totally can stop this. I can view it differently and I can view my life differently because that's the other part of it is what are you're trying to escape from life. You're trying to distract yourself from a life that you literally created. So what if I open my mind to the possibility that I could create a different life?
And so now I'm going to bring up another thing. It doesn't have to be all or nothing, right?
No.
One of the things that really with porn addiction, especially, we see people that, and I think the morality issue comes into it here in a big way, and that is I have to stop.
Yeah, completely.
I have to stop. The have tos, the I shoulds, those sorts of things will never work. You need to know that will work for a time period. Then you'll have a big explosion of masturbating or whatever it is that you do. And the reason is because you've never addressed your want. I want to stop, or I want to lower the instance rate in my life. I want to change. And so we see that with drinkers and druggers all the time. They say, every time somebody told me it had to be for the rest of my life, I would drink more. Of course you would. I mean, because you're waiting you got to hit rock bottom and you literally drive yourself like a nail into the earth, and as soon as we open the possibility that, hey, whoa, you can have a beer down the road. It's not a big deal. You can smoke pot. You can do whatever you could do heroin recreationally if you want to, and moderately. People do it. We're not advocating that that's what you should do. We're advocating that you can, that all people have the ability to do that, so you don't have to put yourself in a corner with forced abstinence.
It's the difference between, I wrote this down because I didn't want to lose it. Both Mark and I struggle with that sometimes, losing our train of thought. Oh, yeah. It's the difference between denying yourself something you see great value in doing. So when you say, I should stop, I have to stop, and then you force yourself to stop and you use your willpower and your determination. I'm not going to do this thing. But all the while, it's the disco ball. Mark calls it the disco ball, is the shiny thing in the background that you've set aside, but you still view it as something incredibly valuable to you. And so you got to figure out what those values are and devalue it, put it in its rightful place. It's not this magical thing that is your end all be all. This is going to make my life amazing in this moment. Maybe you need to devalue it into a place that it's like, maybe it's just a nice treat once in a while.
Yeah.
And really viewing it differently. So, but this is after you've already decided and, let's set aside this idea that you are addicted and you're out of
Well,
control.
that's
And if you
it, right?
start the behavior, you're going to go off to the races.
Right. You gotta get rid of the addict identity completely. Forget the word addiction, compelled behavior, something your brain is biohacked, so you have to do it. These things are lies.
Yeah.
They're just not true. They're not true. It's not to say that your brain doesn't react to drugs or behaviors. Of course, it's a constant recording device of everything you think. The 50,000 thoughts you have in your day affects brain chemistry, as do chemicals and things like that. So we're not saying that it doesn't affect, but the point is, if you can change one way, you can change the other. You can change your brain the opposite direction with a thought. If it's and you don't have to have an equal amount of opposing thought to change your brain, by the way. There comes a day in everybody's life where they have a certain habit, and then one day they don't have it anymore. We had it when we were kids. We would watch Barney or whatever it was when you were growing up. And then one day you just didn't care about it because the value devalued as you evolved, and it wasn't important. And it didn't occur to you to watch Barney anymore. You turned 7 or 6 or whatever it was. And the same goes for riding a bicycle. We use all these examples. So you didn't have to sit there and drive your car for 2 years going, I'm not going to ride my bicycle. I'm not going to ride. No, one day you got in your car and you just left, and the bicycle, which was a massive habit, it was your vehicle for freedom for 5, 6, 10 years, all of a sudden is meaningless to you. So the human mind supersedes brain chemistry. This is really important for you to know. The human mind, your thoughts, your beliefs, which drive your behaviors, which drive brain chemistry, supersede. So if you say, I'm not an addict, I prefer to sit in front of a computer for, however many hours a day, masturbating to porn. Okay. Now we're talking. So at that point you say, do I really, am I getting out of this? Do I want to stop my life for those 3 or 4 hours a day, or would I like to do something else? And you start exploring this, getting rid of the addict idea, getting rid of the dopamine thing. I'm a slave to my dopamine. Horseshit. It's total horseshit. You need to know that. You're not a slave to your brain chemistry. Your brain is a slave to your mind. So your thoughts and your behaviors are driving this.
And you're in control of those.
That's right. And porn addiction is literally just imagery within your mind. It's a full-on fantasy.
Yep.
It's not even real. So your mind is creating everything. So you're not,
which is true even when you're with another person. It's true about sex. It's true about whether you go get prostitutes or you have serial one-night stands or whatever it is that you're doing. Everything exists in your mind, which you are in control of. Okay. Now, that's not to say that spurious thoughts don't just come in, because they do. And especially when we've built habits around certain activities, right?
Yep.
So, but you get to choose when that thought comes in
and what importance you give it.
Yeah, whether you invest in it or not. Am I going to invest in this? Now, what helps too with people, the strange thing about this whole addiction disease premise, and now we have several generations that have been taught that you can become addicted to these things, right?
To anything.
That all of a sudden you're not in control anymore. And so it becomes this belief system. And then we'll get people who will say, I'll ask them this question. I'll say, what is something else you enjoy? And some people have gotten so far down this belief road of addiction, they'll tell me nothing. And I'm like, that's bullshit. That is not true. Tell me something else you like to do. Not that you like to do to this extreme, but something else that you, and you even look into your past, that you saw value in doing, that you do periodically. Someone say, oh, I do kind of like kayaking. Okay. Well, how come you don't go out and kayak all the time? Can you so your goal is you want to if you want to moderate, you learn to like the thing you're doing the same as you like kayaking.
Because you don't believe that kayaking in this instance, this example, is a need.
Right.
Is a need for your happiness, your deep abiding happiness. But if you believe that porn is, well, then of course you're going to use it as the vehicle to your happiness.
And the more troubled your life becomes, the deeper you're going to go to it. The deeper you go into it, probably the more troubled your life is going to become.
But the only difference between those two examples in this particular example would be that person likes kayaking less for certain reasons. So you have
Figure
to
those
dig
out.
in what the reasons are. Why do you spend the time? Why do you feel a need? A need is a powerful word. A need to have it in your life. When we switch need to want, now we've boy, that's knocked it down a bunch of levels. And then we bring it out in the open and we are no longer shameful of it. That knocks it down another bunch of levels. Now we've taken it out of the despicable sort of, world. And then you start to look at it and go, wait a minute. I'm not an addict. No, you're not an addict at all. You're just somebody who has been duped into believing that this has a lot of power over you. And it's bullshit. It's just bullshit. But because you believe it, it's manifested. So it's manifested in your beliefs. And therefore you carry it out that way. And so you can change these things, but it takes this process of devaluing, seeing things, rejecting the addict identity, all the things that we've talked about in previous podcasts. So if you want to go through the catalog and just replace porn or food or gambling for all the drug and drinking talk that we do, it all applies. It's the same problem. It's belief-based.
It is all belief-based. And I want to address something as well that I think is truly, truly tragic, and that is young people who are in their adolescence, show these proclivities for certain behaviors, and then they get sent to therapists and treatment programs, and that they take on these labels and beliefs about themselves at very young ages, and they may even get diagnoses
and medicated.
And medicated. And that doesn't make it any more real. Okay. All it does is it gives you a belief system about yourself that is entirely problematic.
Yeah. It creates a distraction. Medications, treatments, therapies. Those are the distractions from what? Making a decision for yourself. Making a decision of knowing that your mind is in control, that you are your mind, and therefore you supersede your brain chemistry and all this therapy and all this circumstance and all this habit, that you get to decide how it's going to manifest in your life. That's what free will is. That's what autonomy is. That's what the positive drive principle is. And all of this is explained in our programs and our book.
It is entirely natural as an adolescent to experiment with different behaviors, and that those behaviors include sexual behaviors, they include substance use, they include different activities, different sports, that's
fighting,
the time,
being a bully, being a victim, all of it.
That's the time in life where you're learning all this stuff. And now we live in a society that literally clinicalizes experimentation. Okay.
Living.
Just the process of living and figuring out who you are as a person. And so, just keep that in mind, that you're never out of control, and don't let somebody tell you that you are.
Look at, if somebody says that, or that you feel that you're more of a victim after you left the counseling
program
or a counseling session, run the other way. You are capable. You got yourself into this mess because you saw value in it. No other reason, because you found value in it. We move in the direction of what we think benefits us, even when the end results can be catastrophically bad. It doesn't change the fact that our motive in the beginning was for some benefit. So try to avoid doing a reverse analysis where the shit has hit the fan and then you say, obviously I'm powerless. No. Right. When you started this habit, it was just something that you found valuable for reasons. Figure out those reasons. Read the book, go through the online program, get some coaching, and work through these issues. It's just problem solving.
That's it. And figuring out what you like, what you don't like, and who you are, and how powerful you are as a person.
And one last thing, when it comes to sexual addiction and many of these other behavioral things, a lot of times I'm going to simplify it, although your case may not be simple. Okay. But I want this for you to ponder on this idea, and we'll close with this. maybe your life is just stuck and you feel like you don't have the courage to move forward. Now, courage is acting even though you're scared, acting while you're scared. So you may have to muster up some courage to force yourself to move forward and get the job that you are scared to get, but you really want, or get out of the relationship that is sexless and go find the sexual partner that will be more fun, or whatever it might be, but evolve
Yeah.
out of the habit. Now, with substance use, I don't push that because it's a little more nuanced than that. But I'm telling you, a lot of times with the people I've worked with that have sexual problems, a lot of times it is just they're holding on to that purely, purely to avoid moving forward.
Yeah, it's a procrastination
Yes, that's
tool.
perfect
That's
word
what
for
it
it.
is.
Really is. Yeah.
Yep, it doesn't matter what the behavior is. You could be sitting looking at your phone, scrolling social media, or playing video games continuously, or just as a way to avoid sometimes the hard work of living life. And it's kind of like it's kind of like certain medications that people get prescribed these days, where you get a kind of a level existence and there's no highs and no lows.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what these behavior addictions tend to be like, is they keep you on a just kind of on this existence level. And if you're not willing to take risks, you're not going to experience the highs.
Yeah, that's
You
for
know,
sure. For sure.
and the truth of the matter is your life just becomes this low level
Boring and depressing place.
yeah, exactly. So but the freedom model can help. It can help
Yes.
you to break out of all of that and get on with life.
So sign up for the masterclass, and there's the QR code for the PC users. And
Yeah, or go to thefreedommodel.org. And after this, there's going to be a little ad for our masterclass as well. So if you want to learn more, just keep listening.
All right, everybody. Have a great week.
Learn how you can solve your addiction for good without steps, meetings, rehabs, and endless mat regimens, and then move on with your life as a free and empowered person. Learn how by enrolling in our free 1-hour Move Past Addiction Masterclass. To enroll in this free class, click the link provided or go to thefreedommodel.org. And when you attend our free masterclass, you'll get 50% off the Freedom Model online program and now 20% off our private coaching program as well. See you at the masterclass.